The Sinn 903 ST, a beautiful watch, not only a chronograph, but also a watch with an integrated slide rule on the outer bezel. You can see the figures around the dial here. In this video I will show you how you can do math calculations with the slide rule. Hello and welcome to WatchMaxy's Watch Videos. My name is Axel and I'm glad to have you on the show. The Sinn 903 is a beautiful watch which I've ever liked. However, I always had some problems to read the time. How big my problem really is, I only mentioned when I tried to do math calculations with the slider rule bezel. You can do any kind of math calculation as a multiplication or a division. To show you each and any variant would be too much for this video. You can do rates for a plane, to gain height, to lose height. You can do calculations, see miles versus kilometers, and a lot of other things which would be too far leading for this video. What I'm going to do is I show you some examples, and any calculation can be reduced to a multiplication or a division or a rule of three. Before we can start, I think it's very useful first to define the terms I will use during this video. The watch has three scales, one which you can move and adjust with the crown on the 10 o'clock position. This scale I will refer to as the rotating scale. Then you have a scale just closer to the dial, and this is between the 12 and 11 o'clock position with 55 and 50, 45 numbers on there. This I will refer to as the middle scale, and then the inner one I will refer to obviously as the inner scale, and here you will find times or hours or something like this: 110, 120, 130, 140, and so on and so forth. So we have the rotating, the middle, and the inner scale, and this is how I will refer to the scales during the calculation examples. Let's start with a simple multiplication exercise. You can see here on the bezel, which I can turn around, the rotating bezel, a 10 between 95 and 11, and corresponding to the 10 there is also a 10 on the middle scale in dark red, which you can see just in a certain angle. So this is the starting point. I want to try to calculate 13 times 5. For this I rotate the 13 towards the red 10 mark on the middle bezel. Here we have 13 corresponding to the 10 mark. And now I look for the 5 value on the middle scale. Here we have 50. And on the rotating bezel I see 65, which means 13 times 5 equals 65. As you can see, I don't have a 5 here, I have a 50, which means I have to do the over 10 calculation without the slider rule. The slider rule just does the basic calculation. The advantage is with the same setting I can calculate 1.3 times 5 equaling 6.5, or 13 times 50 equaling 650. So the over 10 value needs to be done by heart, but it really helps to come to the right value. Now let's do a division. It's quite similar, and I would like to use a division task which is a little bit more complicated. Let's divide 30 by 23. For this, I move the 30 on the rotating bezel towards the 23 of the middle scale. Here you can see the 30 on the rotating bezel on the rotating scale is just matching the 23 on the middle scale. Again, the red mark on the middle scale, the 10 on the middle scale, is the reference we have to use. And on the rotating scale you see 13. Again, the over 10 calculation needs to be done by heart. And 30 divided by 23 equals 1.3. So you can do this by heart. You can use a pocket calculator. You will see as a rounded value this is correct. Let's do a speed calculation. Let's assume we have driven a distance of 150 kilometers and it took us 40 minutes to do so. So I have to move the 15 on the rotating scale towards the 40 on the middle scale. So the 15 on the rotating scale now matches the 40 on the middle scale. Here we are. Again, the over 10 value needs to be calculated by heart. And since it was a distance, irrespective whether miles or kilometer, the miles per hour arrow shows us the value. It is exactly between 22 and 23, which means if we need 40 minutes for a distance of 150 kilometer, our average speed has been 225 kilometer per hour. You can also do a fuel consumption calculation. Let's assume we made a trip of about 500 kilometers and the total fuel consumption was 60 liters. So let's move the 60 towards the 500 kilometer represented by the 50 on the middle scale. So I moved the 60 on the rotating scale towards the 50 on the middle scale. And our reference again is the 10 marker on the middle scale. And this indicates that the per 100 kilometer consumption was 12 liters. Well, you can do other things as well. For example, you can estimate the total fuel consumption, for example, on an airplane, if you know the average fuel consumption per hour. Let's assume the average fuel consumption is 20 units per hour. So now let's move the 20 towards the miles per hour arrow we've just used. So we move the 20 to the per hour indicator, and on the inner bezel now we can see the estimated fuel consumption. If it takes 1 hour 30, the consumption will be 30 on the rotating scale. 20 per hour means 30 in 1 hour and a half. And if we look at the inner scale, 2 hours needs 40 fuel units, 3 hours 60, 3:30, 70. So it can be a fuel consumption, it can be other production units, maximum output per hour, and you can estimate the hour over time in different time periods. I hope you enjoyed the video. It wasn't the watch in particular, it was more a certain feature of the watch, but I was asked in a couple of comments to do this video in particular. I personally can't read the scale when the watch is on the wrist, so I won't need it. I will forget what I did here, but I hope you enjoyed it and look forward to the next videos to come. Cheers, Axel.